In today's video, we're going to talk about how to build a body like a superhero. So whenever a film comes out that required the lead actor to get ripped, jacked, cut, shredded, whatever you want to call it, it usually kickstarts a wave of guys all wanting to know how they too can get the same superhero physique. As the saying goes, guys want to be them, girls want to be with them. How do we know this? Well, it becomes pretty obvious when you look at some Google search trends over the last few years. You can see that the interest in an actor's workout peaks with the release date of the film they got in shape for. Chris Evans as Captain America, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, and even Ben Affleck got in there as well. Although I'm not really sure what this little peak in 2014 was. Gone Girl? Yeah, alright then. Also, going back to my earlier statement of guys wanting to be them and girls wanting to be with them, it's also worth noting that searches for Chris Evans workout peaks at the same time as searches for Chris Evans girlfriend. Although I'm not really sure how that would help. They're going to copy her hair and her clothes and then hope that someone like Chris Evans would find them attractive. Someone's going to have to explain that logic to me because I can't see any. But when the films are released, fitness magazines love to jump on board with the latest workout and diet plans that these two actors went through in order to achieve their new bodies, usually using all their favourite buzzwords to make you think that this magazine can get you ripped and lean. Unfortunately, most of the information in the magazines is not going to help you get the body you want. There's often little, if zero mention of progressive overload, not much emphasis on how to calculate nutrition based on your body and your goals, and to top it all off, the workout that insert name of actor used to get in shape for the role is probably nothing like the one that's listed in the magazine. Instead, what you're likely to find is some cookie cutter program or a weird list of exercises that sound more complicated and are less useful than the typical muscle building exercises. You know, the ones that actually work. And following this workout like the actor has to build a superhero body is probably going to be about as useful as using some silly string web shooters to go out and be Spider-Man. What happens next is you start to get frustrated with the lack of results, start to think that you don't have enough dedication or good enough genetics to get the results that you want, and then Gwen Stacy dies and you find yourself replaced by Tom Holland. The truth is, if these magazines told you what you really needed to do, they'd sell one issue and be done. And magazines like Men's Health even just reuse the same cover but with a different celebrity on the front. And even they're running out of ideas. So what should you do to build a superhero body? Before we go into that, I want to cover a few things. Firstly, ask yourself the question, do you really want to? Or is it just a bit of fleeting enthusiasm? Most people aren't that concerned with looking lean and ripped, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you've just watched the latest Avengers film with your girlfriend while she was drooling over Thor's biceps and have said to yourself, I'm gonna get me some Asgardian gains, then you're probably doing it for the wrong reason. You'll have much better luck if it's something you genuinely want to do, and not just because your girlfriend thinks Thor's hot. Besides, she likes you for your personality, and that thing you do with your finger. The next thing to note is that building a great body, like any new skill, is going to require a learning curve. However, once you learn the basics and apply certain concepts, getting results is actually pretty easy. It takes time, but mainly just requires consistency and patience. Thirdly, these actors don't try and maintain this physique year round, and neither should you. While it is possible to maintain a lean and muscular physique, what you're seeing when these actors take off their shirt is them at their peak moment. Very often there will be one particular scene in a film where the actor is shirtless, and they will treat the filming of this scene in the same way as a competitive bodybuilder would. It's likely that they planned their training and nutrition around looking as good as possible on that particular day of filming. Combine that with the perfect lighting and some post-production editing, and you've got yourself some shredded wheat. Finally, because it's everyone's favourite subject, steroids. The reason I brought this up is not because of the amount of muscle these guys put on, but more so the speed in which they do so. Building a great body does take time, and this might not be a luxury that the actor has. So when they're offered the chance to secure a lead role, boost their career, get a massive paycheck, but only on the condition that they put on 20 pounds of muscle in 3 months, you can understand why they might do whatever it takes. And when you consider that these aren't going to be the dodgy steroids you get from that weirdo at the gym, and are likely of a higher quality with medical professionals on hand, it makes even more sense. While it's impossible to say who is and who isn't on steroids, it stands perfectly to reason that some of these actors might opt for a juicy boost in order to get into shape fast. That being said, many of these bodies are perfectly attainable naturally, but just require a different approach. So, onto the how of this video. If you look at the bodies of these actors, you'll usually notice a few things in common. Number one, upper body size. Firstly, let me just clarify, I'm not telling you to skip legs. Do not skip legs. But it has to be noted that a common trait these guys have is good development of upper chest, shoulders and back. So how can we build these body parts? Well, the way you won't build them is by sticking to machine and cable work, using light weights, blasting out as many reps as possible in order to feel the burn. If you want to make progress in this area, I'm afraid you're going to have to start lifting heavy. Progressive overload is agreed by many to be the primary driver of muscle growth. And as the name suggests, you are progressively overloading your muscles, or in simple terms, lifting more weight over time. The problem with sticking to a higher rep range is that it makes it very difficult to increase weight over time. By sticking to a rep range like 3 to 5, 4 to 6, 5 to 7, 6 to 8, you will be working in a range that is much easier to increase weight over time. By doing this, you're giving your muscles a reason to grow. Simply put, your body will adapt to handle the heavier weight that you're lifting. An easy way to program this is like so. Let's say you're about to bench press, because we all love chest day. In this example, we'll use 3 sets in the 4 to 6 rep range. You pick a weight that you can safely lift within that rep range, most likely about 80 to 85% of your 1 rep max. You then perform each set with rest times in between, most likely 2 to 3 minutes. If you didn't manage to get at least 4 reps on each set, the weight is likely too much, and you should try with a lower weight. If you manage to get, for example, 5, 5, 4, that's great. Stick with that weight until you can get 6 reps on all 3 sets. Once you manage this, the next time you work chest, you should try increasing the weight and see how you manage with the new increase. Follow this principle, and over time, as your strength increases, your muscles will adapt to deal with this. Make sure to combine this with a slight calorie surplus to support growth, and macronutrient ratios are also important too. I'll even link a calculator below because I'm nice like that. Here are some exercises that I recommend for the superhero physique. For chest, incline bench press, barbell bench press, incline dumbbell press, flat dumbbell press, weighted dips. Personally, I don't like decline pressing, it has shit range of motion, and to build a superhero chest, the last thing you want is an overdeveloped lower chest and underdeveloped upper chest. You'll get plenty of chest development from flat pressing, and incline pressing will help bring in that strong upper chest. For shoulders, overhead pressing works great. Personally, I prefer the seated version just because it lets you add more weight on and really overload the shoulders, but the standing one works great too. Since shoulders are a smaller muscle, adding in some isolation work in the higher rep range can help in this area. Adding in some lateral and rear delt raises with dumbbells or cables can really help to bring that rounded capped shoulder look. This is where you'll see people flapping around like that. What the fuck's that? No. Nice and controlled, which is why you should be using a lighter weight with that. However, these should be done after your heavy pressing. Think of it of how your mum would only let you have dessert after you'd finished your dinner. That's right ladies, I've got analogies. Call me. For building the back, there are several exercises that can help. Weighted pull-ups, heavy rowing like barbell, dumbbell or T-bar, and of course the king of all exercises, deadlifts. Some people see deadlifts as more of a strength exercise rather than one that should be used for hypertrophy, but the fact that deadlifts work so well with progressive overload makes them, in my opinion, and many others, a staple choice for any training program. That and the fact that you're incorporating multiple muscle groups means you're likely to get stronger in other areas too. All in all, when done correctly, can lead to fantastic upper back development. So by working on these 3 body parts, you too can have that same Dorito-shaped look that Chris Evans is so proud of. Am I there yet? Number 2, getting lean. The reason that this part comes second is because unless you're quite overweight, there's no point cutting down body fat when there's nothing to reveal underneath. Just like building a house, building a great body requires building strong foundations. Still don't believe me about those analogies? So once you've built some upper body size, it's time to strip away the fat to reveal that definition. Some people will tell you that you have to switch to higher rep training to bring out the cuts and bring out the definition. Seriously, I still overhear people saying this at my gym. In reality, your training doesn't want to change that much. You may find you have to reduce volume slightly or take a rest week or a deload week more often, but you still want to be lifting heavy like before. The only difference now is that instead of trying to increase your strength, your main goal is to maintain what strength you have. Where things change is with your nutrition. To reduce your body fat in order to reveal definition, you will have to put yourself in a calorie deficit. This is where your body is burning more calories than you're consuming. Regardless of what diet people followed, if it resulted in weight loss, it was because a calorie deficit occurred. Yes, we all know someone who lost weight without tracking a single calorie. Here's the thing though, your body does count calories, even if you don't. And just so I don't disappoint the ladies, here's another analogy. If you were saving to buy a house, I'm pretty sure you would track money coming in and out of your bank account each month. You'd be a fool not to. So if your goal is to transform your body by gaining or losing weight, don't you think it makes sense to have an idea of how many calories are coming in and out each day? By knowing how many calories you're consuming and how much protein, carbs and fat you're having each day, you can keep yourself on track of your goal. And as before, the calculator is in the description. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, I don't have time to track calories, it's just too much effort. Honestly, a few years ago, I might have believed you. But today, there are so many apps that help you do this that you really don't have an excuse. MyFitnessPal even includes a scanner, so you don't even have to type in the nutrition anymore. You just scan the barcode of the food and it's automatically logged into your diary. And just so you know, losing weight doesn't mean you have to eat bland, boring food that tastes like cardboard. If you aren't familiar with flexible dieting, also known as if it fits your macros, I highly suggest you read up on it, because it will teach you how to eat the food you enjoy and still get the body you want. By following these principles, you should be losing fat and not muscle. So the last question is, how long will all this take? Honestly, it's impossible to answer. The time frame to achieve this kind of transformation will be different for everyone, based on genetics, training and nutrition compliance, but more importantly, your starting point. And this is why, as cheesy as it sounds, it's important to enjoy the journey. This kind of transformation is not something that will happen over a couple of months. So if it's not something you're enjoying, you probably won't stick at it long enough to see decent results. And this can be hard to face, because in the back of our minds, we're always going to have that end goal that we're thinking about. My advice for this is try not to see things just as a starting point and an end point. Instead, look at it as a starting point with multiple stepping stones along the way. Yes, you want to have the big goal, but you should break it down into smaller steps that make up the big picture. This can be something as simple as sticking to your nutrition for 1 week, then a second week, then a third, a fourth, and so on. It can be tracking your strength increases every week. The point is, when you add these up, they make a huge difference over a year. Another useful tip is to not compare yourself to others. Whether this be people at your gym, actors on screen, you can use these people as motivation, and if it helps give you that push, that positive feeling, then great, go for it. But if comparing yourself doesn't give you that positive feeling and it's bringing you down, stop comparing yourself to them. You don't know how long they've been training for, what their genetics are like, and they're not you. So why let that bring you down? If you want to compete with someone, compete with yourself from last week. Compete with yourself from 2 months ago. Compete with yourself from a year ago. Look at that person you were a year ago. Are you better than what you were a year ago? Guys, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you stuck through all of that and actually learned something. If so, please leave a thumbs up. If you've got any questions, comment below, or you can follow me on Instagram as well. Subscribe to the channel to see more, and I'll see you soon.